Welcome back, you filthy exiles, and this is the first League Starter guide I have done in nearly a year, which is weird to think about when you really stack it up to everything, but that's where we're at in life right now, so let's make the best of it. So, what are we doing today? We are doing something different. So, I thought about playing Shield Crush, but I've done that many leagues. Definitely there's a few builds that I want to do off of the back of the patch notes that I saw today, in particular Soul Rest, which is one of my all-time favorite builds, and yes, I'm going to put a POB together for that and Divine Ire because they're both really different builds, and I have a Divine Ire build from 2 leagues ago or 3 leagues ago, and I also know how to roll Soul Rest because I've done a build guide for that. I'll put them in the description below if you want to see what they look like, but we might even do a Soul Rest build tree on stream tonight, maybe? Anyway, we'll see how we go. Alright, so what are we doing here? Alright, so I sort of went ticking around for SSF POBs, and I stumbled across one that was at like 3,000 depth delve and running Sunder, and I was like, this is fantastic. I can definitely do something a bit different with this and make it either tankier or more utilitized to how you would play SSF, how you play Trade League. So I decided to do exactly that, and this is where we got to. So I basically have 4 POBs that you'll see. Now, I'll also provide all the leveling POBs. I haven't sort of fleshed out the gearing or the items in the leveling POB, sorry, the gem levels and stuff like that. This is mainly just progression, but I have mapped every single act into early mapping for you to know exactly how to level this tree up to get it to work basically the same way that I did. Now, gearing-wise, this is the most scuffed dog rubbish setup in existence. Nothing is leveled up. Everything is just picked up off the ground or just absolute crap. No optimization. What you saw at the start was TA Alkengode map where they had way too much crit on them. But nonetheless, this is really strong. Defensively, yet looked weak in the video. That's because we have to get around physical damage reduction, which we're going to be able to do, but we're going to be overcapping reses and stuff like that. And also running stuff like, you know, Valaco and stuff like that. It's all the good stuff that's built into the Chieftain, right? So we'll be able to overcome most of our issues. Just the POB that you can see here is 100k DPS in just like totally scuffed like gear, nothing optimized, nothing. It's just crap. Like even the axe looks like it's really good. I literally just like crafted this on stream with like 2 things and it was like, bam, done. So yeah, I don't want to see anyone in the comments going, you're using leveling gear. I didn't use any leveling gear to level this up. I did the run in about 8.5 to 9 hours tops, and that was me being slow as hell and relearning how to play PoE 1 again. So yeah, this build I would say definitely is my league starter for this league. If you want to play it, up to you. This is what this guide's for. All the POBs will be in the description. Also, the other thing I've provided is a bit of a breakdown of how to level it and the gems you need to switch to. This isn't absolutely perfect. Really what I'd say is use this as a bit of an edge guide, but basically if you want to know what I was doing act for act, I'll provide all those POBs separately down there. So it'll be like 20,000 POBs down there, but everything will be very clear and easy to follow. So that's basically it for like the stuff that I'll provide for this build for this run. We'll also do like 4 videos with various progress updates for day 1, day 2, week 1, and then like endgame sort of stuff, and then we might do a 5th that we get it to like super endgame. But the intention is to delve with this. I don't know what the impact of Mercs is going to be. That's probably going to buff this up pretty significantly, and there's probably a few other things that will buff this up around crafts and mastery points, so we'll have a play with all that stuff as well. But yeah, there's probably going to be a fair bit that we can do to min-max the hell out of this build. So that's basically where we're at. So we'll get into the leveling guide very shortly. But yeah, more or less, we'll just save that. More or less where we got to with this build is, or the mechanics behind how this works, if I can figure out how to get back to this screen, is it's quite simple. Basically, you're going to have like your one auto exertion configuration set up here. We're going to use stuff like, I am running a lot of auras, by the way, you'll notice, mainly because I can. Now, we do use Clarity, we use Vitality. We do use Vitality on an Arrogance setup, so we reserve a little bit of life pool, and the reason for that is it's more potent using Vitality than Clarity. But I think I've got in the POB you can do it with Clarity. This is usually how I get around mana issues. So people ask me all the time, how do you overcome mana sustain on a melee character? Basically, Clarity and Arrogance solves all your problems until you can get Reduction, which is a lot easier to get with the Syndicate changes this league. Yeah, Syndicate. Yep. Betrayal. Sorry. Outside of that, more or less how it works is you're going to drop your war cries, you're going to hit and blow the whole screen up, and rinse and repeat. That's basically all we're doing. It's a Sunder build, right? Is it satisfying? Yes. Is it big hitting? Yes. Why do I have Fist of War? We actually have a built-in 7-link setup technically when we run Tukahama War's Herald, so we just get a free 7-link at the end of the day. Now, I haven't sort of spec'd this out for Forbidden Flesh or Forbidden Flame. I've not included anything to do with Mage Blood configurations or anything like that. We can optimize the living daylights out of this in a trade league and make it absolutely mental. Like, it's going to be running around not caring about a thing. Now, physical damage reduction is a bit of an issue, as I said. We could also do like Cloak of Flame on this if we wanted to, but armor seems to be the way to go for this. But we'll have a play around with all these elements and see how we go with it. More or less, that's the build, to be honest with you. We're basically just switching between Blood and Sand, depending on AoE needs. Warcry, hit the ground, blow everything up, move on, and so on and so on. Basically, the other thing that we'll note, to get around accuracy, I found the accuracy mastery with plus 500 gets us to a pretty nice point of accuracy if we can find Sunder. So we don't really need to worry about accuracy at this stage. Tooltip just on lock stock stands at about 26,000. Goes up to 40 or 50,000 straight away. It's just like I never really got into Sunder builds. What I've realized is this is just like one of the most. It's like the Yuri Boyka of slams. It's just really easy to scale up. Could you use this configuration template for other slams? 100%. If you want to play other slams, you can steal my tree and go buck wild with the leveling configuration, all the rest of it. It's all the same at the end of the day, and it should enable other different various slams to work and whatnot. Anyway, let's get into the POB leveling tree, and I'll talk you through basically each of the acts and all the rest of it, and then from there we'll talk about the endgame tree just a little bit and things that you can look at to focus up getting damage. And then from there, that's pretty much it for the guide. I don't want to go into too much detail because this is just a leveling guide. Obviously, POB is not up to date. Very well aware of that, so it's still using the 3.25 trees until the 3.26 update to POB comes out, hopefully in the next few days. But anyway, let's get into the leveling from Act 1 to 10. Okay, so for Act 1, pretty much you're going to start on Twilight Strand, just running Ground Slam at the end of the day. This is just going to be the best leveling skill until you get the Sunder skill in about Act 3. You can equip just a two-handed axe. Just make sure you keep leveling this up and gearing this up as you go. Initially, I used the Precision Aura. I then equipped Blood and Sand Aura, Clarity, which you'll need to sustain mana, and Vitality. If you can get it, Enduring Cry, and you'll need to self-trigger this as you play. This will also generate endurance charges, which will just make you a little bit more tanky. And then Leap Slam, you'll also need to get this build started. For Act 2, pretty much just add Seismic Cry to the build. I think if you can get Ancestral Cry as well, that's also an advantage. Just gives you double damage. The other thing to do is remove Precision. Once you equip the Eagle Eye Mastery node, you'll no longer need this for a little bit because basically you'll have your accuracy stacked up. So yeah, you just won't need this until you get to like endgame and you need to start scaling up crit again. For Act 3, you're going to finally equip Sunder to the build once it's available in the campaign. You'll also be adding Infernal Cry. Now with Sunder, you're also going to keep faster attacks, chance to bleed, and melee physical damage as your support gems, and this should help you get through the Act 3 zones pretty quickly and easily. It is an advantage running chance to bleed because the bleed damage will take down bosses and enemies very quickly earlier on. Now for Act 4, this is actually when you're also going to ascend finally, and the first ascension point that you take is going to be Tassalo Cleansing Waters, which is basically going to align all your resistances. This is also the point where you'll get access to Arrogance as you play through the Act 4 zone. And in this case, I would be recommending to switch to a Clarity Arrogance configuration. So you'll need a linked blue and a red socket on your gear. And this just gives you a big advantage to your mana sustain for the rest of the campaign. So for Act 5, basically at this point, you could choose to use like an Assassin's Mark setup. I've done this on other builds like Shield Crush and whatnot, and basically do Mark on Hit and Life Tap. Now, you might be running a bit short. I actually don't have this set up in the POB, but it's just an option. If you didn't want to do this, you need to basically rebalance your auras to the below, which is Blood and Sand, Determination, Vitality, and Clarity and Arrogance. And then basically this should give you a pretty good across the board setup for dealing with the rest of the game until you get to Act 6, and then we can add Infernal Cry into the configuration with an overexert setup. Alternatively, you could also go back to the library in, I think it's Act 3 or 4, and then go and pick up overexertion from there, or sorry, auto exertion, and you could also set up your automate warcry, but you will need the node on the tree called Champion of the Cause to get your reservation down for mana. Okay, so by Act 6, if you haven't got the auto exertion set up with Infernal Cry, I would 100% recommend doing this. This is going to give you a significant increase to clear speed across all zones. This is basically the only change you need to make. Realistically, you also want to have Champion of the Cause on your tree or skill tree before you do this setup, because it will take a bit of mana reservation to achieve. For Act 7, you're basically just going to be looking for new axes where you possibly can, but you're also going to ascend again, and you want to pick up Scion, and basically this is going to give you infinite Warcry power, which will ramp up damage. It'll also make your Enduring Cries a lot more potent as well. Overall, this is a huge advantage to a Warcry build and a Slam build like this. For Act 8, just literally just look for better gear and just keep progressing through. There's no real changes I can recommend at this stage. It's just you're getting closer to having a more complete setup. So just have fun and enjoy. So for Act 9, this is when things start to get better and start to feel a lot more complete with the build. Basically, you want to keep looking again for the next bigger axe. The more upgrades to the axe, the better off the build's going to feel. It is very weapon-centric, if you want to call it that. We're then going to also ascend to Tukahama's War's Herald. This is going to give us our technical, like at this stage, this will be 5 link, which is level 20 Fist of War, which is a pretty big damage buff this far into the game. And then basically, I'd also say by the end of Act 9, you want to farm up on Blood Aqueduct and just get to level 65 before you progress into Act 10. And this is just going to make your overall experience with leveling through Act 10 a hell of a lot quicker and a hell of a lot more fun. So in Act 10, you basically just want to be focusing on maxing out your resistances wherever possible. And beyond this point, you're going to go to the early mapping or early leveling path of the POB tree, which is going to progress you into like your early maps. After this point, or after that point, you're going to go into the day 1, week 1, and the finally high budget trees. And the reason why I separate these is just to make them more understandable, so you don't have to go like ticking a whole heap of settings in the POB and then trying to guess where you need to go next. I know some people just like it in one, but this is just the way that I do my guides. Okay, so after you've overcome the mapping scenario and you've worked through early mapping, or sorry, overcome the campaign and you've gotten early mapping, you'll be wanting to progress a little further. So the day 2 POB then kicks in. So this will take you to level 93. And basically, there's not too much rework here. It's mainly just targeting to get these rage nodes with battle trance. We want to stack rage, and this gives us a lot more mobility. We also want to get a lot more crit. We want to get more warcry duration, more axe damage nodes, which we're going to pick up here, and then basically all the good stuff. Now, I have reworked all the configurations here to a degree. Actually, have I done that? Yes, I have. So basically, we're getting frenzy charges from like blood rage, which will eventually feed into the build. We get endurance charges from our warcry. Time spent stationary can be 5 seconds. You don't really need it. All it really affects is a little bit of damage reduction at the end of the day. But we're still quite weak, but we have a lot of overcap resistance here as well at level 8 at 80%, so that's pretty good. We've used Warcries recently, it's how we do damage. We have enemies covered in ash. We haven't really ticked any of these technically. Enemies are taunted as well, so we have a bit more damage. But the big things here is you'll notice, like, by the first day gearing-wise, you start to get a lot more DPS onto your axe. And this, while it looks like an insane axe, is really not that insane to get. And this is just something that you can craft over time. And with the access to all the new stuff from the fixes to betrayal, and this being easier to get your crafts, it should actually be easier to get these empower configuration nodes. Again, really cheap ring. Again, everything else. Now, this is actually set up to be on like a low life setup as well to a degree, so it does use petrified blood. There's a bit of like conversion in here. We have pride, we have blood and sand. I think in here we have petrified blood as well. This does do damage reduction. We do have this in the build just because from the POB that I sort of work with, this made sense. But then when we go into our like final endgame form and whatnot, we then remove this as we sort of scale up and get a bigger pool. Arguably, you don't really need Petrified Blood at this stage. That just gives you a lot more convenience earlier on and allows you to run a lot more auras at the end of the day. We're actually probably going to diverge off this and go a very different direction, but I haven't fully decided on the direction I want to take with this yet. But for right now, this is a pretty cool way to basically get around offensive issues. Please also note we use Battle Mage's Cry, and this basically gives us the vulnerability curse as well, but there are way better ways to achieve this. This is just like something you can use. Mean to say there are better setups here, so you've got the end of week 1, which I would actually prefer that people follow. And basically this starts to do away with things like Petrified Blood. We no longer need any of that garbage. And then basically we do have Petrified Blood in here, I think. Yeah, there we go. We still have Petrified Blood. But basically, yeah, we start to sort of rework things a little bit. Our DPS is going up. We've also got a pretty strong axe by the end of this point. With the crafting mechanics that are available in this league, it is going to be a whole lot easier to do this. We start to look at things like Echoes of Creation, which we should be able to get at a pretty early ejector in the league anyway, because this isn't like an overly expensive item that a lot of slam builds use. But as you'll notice, like in a lot of circumstances, everything is just rare gear at this point and leveled up. So this POB will be in the description, by the way. And we also start to stack a little bit of energy shield because we do use that as a defensive layer, and then eventually we could also go up in a divine shield, and this is actually going to be quite good for mitigating physical damage later on. In the final POB that we have in full endgame, you'll see no more Petrified Blood, that's all gone. Basically, we've got energy shield in here. We're using things like Defiance of Destiny, Annihilation's Approach, which gives us adrenaline, Echoes of Creation, we're like min-max to all hell. Basically, this is where the target is. We do have Progenesis in this, but this is like a real endgame treat. But basically, this is like super tanky, get you down to like 3000 depth delve and all the rest of the good stuff. So the build has the ability to progress pretty easily and thoroughly throughout the campaign and through the whole endgame process. The footage at the very start shows you me just, doing 100k in T8 maps with absolutely scuffed gear. But yeah, as you basically gear up and move forwards, this build gets a hell of a lot easier to work with, and slams are just really powerful. As you can see, we get to 30 million DPS here, which is pretty, or nearly 31 million DPS, which is pretty wild at the end of the day. But yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, I'll have all these POBs in the description below, so you'll be able to sort of do whatever you want with them. But yeah, it's pretty cool sort of setup, and it is SSFable because aside from like Defiance of Destiny and Annihilation's Approach, everything else can be farmed within a degree or crafted within a degree of range. So this is a pretty approachable build if you just want to use this as an SSF build as well. Anyway, as noted, all the POBs will be in the description below. I thought this was just something totally different to try and level up and test, and I was really surprised at the outcome of this build. Like, it is a very powerful build early on. I am not surprised as to why people run slams all the time, because it is a hell of a lot of fun. If you didn't want to play things like Sunder, you could also do like Ground Slam. You could also do the trans version of Ground Slam as well. That would work on this configuration. If you didn't want to do that, you could go Earth Shatter. That would also work as well. Pretty sure. Yeah, that should work as well. There's a whole different sort of array of builds that can come from this. Obviously, I know people are looking for a Soul Rest build. That's probably going to be either that or Divine Eye are going to be my second or third builds at this stage, because I really want to do Soul Rest again with the buff to the Soul Rest item. Like, it'd be crazy to not run that, but we'll see how we go. And then, yeah, Divine Eye, because I want to do a Kamehameha build, and that's been buffed this league as well as the Ascendancy for the Elementalist too. Anyway, if you like this video and this guide makes sense to you, and you like everything, if you like it, if you dislike it, drop a comment below. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. And I don't know if I just said it, I can't remember what I'm saying anymore, but don't forget to like and sub to the channel and follow the Twitch. Anyway, I'll see you guys later on, and have a good one.